You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in the city of Las Vegas, a very hot city of Las Vegas. We finally got our heat, but that's okay. I'll let the rest of you across the country shovel snow, deal with all that other storms, tornadoes, all that stuff. I've lived in it before, but guess what? I will shovel sunshine. That's right. Welcome back to Silver and Black Today, where we talk about the Raiders, right? Raiders. We are Las Vegas' only all-Raiders show, that's right. And we're here to go over that as we are 53 days, who's counting, 53 days away from the start of the NFL season. Yes. And along this journey with me, as always, are two, and I use the term loosely, gentlemen, and I'll start, as I always do, going from left to right, and that is with a Mr. Kelly Kreiner. Kelly, what's up, man?
Me too early in the morning to be insulted to start off the show.
Wow, you weren't insulted. Hey, as you said, as you always say, my friend, I am a realist.
And so you're gonna say that you're trash.
No, that's you have dominated, and that is your term. So I would not infringe.
That's right.
On your.
I do use
openly.
I do use that a little too often.
I know, but that's okay. It's your term. And I like that because everybody needs a little bit of their own thing. You know what I'm saying? It's your catchphrase, and at least on this show, and actually in general. So that's good, and people know you for it. So hey, you got to be known for something, right? It's better than a lot of other things that could be less exciting than that. And also with us is Chaz Osborne. Hey. Chaz, what's up today?
Hey,
are you awake? Are you awake? What's the deal, man? You're there, right?
I'm all here. I was just thinking, I see your picture of the stadium. I know they did a thorough inspection of the stadium after those earthquakes last week. I didn't get the final report.
It's built upside down, the entire stadium. No, it's all good, man. I mean, earthquakes, and for those of you outside the market, earthquakes, buildings here are built to withstand earthquakes and seismic activity because we have it. And guess what? There's seismic activity actually all over the country. Oklahoma has the biggest fault in America, actually. There's a big one in Illinois. There's one in Kansas.
What's their fault?
So it's
not their fault.
No, it's not. It's not their fault.
You're not the only one that can do dad jokes in here.
I was going to say, don't encourage him by laughing at that.
It's all of our fault, right? And so we like that. But anyway, so we're here. We're here to talk about Raiders football, of course, as well as other things. And Chaz, the one thing I was going to start off with here was the Raiders and kind of what the expectations are. Jay Burrows, one of our writers over at Silver and Black Today, who he'll give me crap. I don't know if he's listening. He's probably not awake yet. But I always tell him he needs to be more on Twitter, Chaz. But he wrote a piece yesterday or the day before talking about how Raider fans need to be careful that, you should be optimistic, things are going in the right direction, but that it might be a little too early. You got all these fans, 10-6, 11-5, and his says, whoa, put on the brakes and look at success, not necessarily always by wins and losses, despite being professional football.
Yep.
Instead, look at steady progress. Are they finding answers in key positions? Do you disagree with him?
No, I agree. I disagree with him. No, I agree with him because I've been a part of some rebuilds, and you're just kind of looking to get better, get stronger. Like we've talked about, the Raiders got a lot of moving parts this year, so we got to figure out who fits where and what's going to happen. Obviously, with the schedule, that's really not going to help us go 10-6 this year at all. And you've got the Chargers and the Chiefs that are probably two of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league in your division. So definitely pump the brakes on this season. It's just going to be kind of a learning, growing. Of course, I'm the eternal optimist. I want us to go 12-4 every season and make the Super Bowl. But after the 2002 season, I've kind of learned to be a realist.
Well, this is where we bring in the realist to end all realists, of course, and that is my good friend Kelly Kreiner. Kelly, Is Jay wrong about that too? Or he kind of echoes it. I mean, you do it a little more colorfully, although he'll argue with me since he's African American. He jokes about that stuff all the time. But you say the same thing basically that he's saying is like, look, it's not going to be a playoff season this year, so have some excitement around maybe they found some pieces for the puzzle. But the puzzle's not going to be done until at least 2020, maybe 2021, right?
Yeah, and you see, like I said, you see it every year. You know, everybody starts the season off thinking their team's going 16-0. This is the year. Fan short for fanatic. You know, we get it. You know, but it just seems like the swings, especially with the Raiders, because you always have that optimism that it's going to. And the second it starts to, ducktail, it just goes straight off a cliff. So it's like, you've just got to realize, and the schedule alone is enough for you to sit there and look at. It's like, you know what, this is probably not a 12-4, 11-5 team, because that schedule is just nasty.
Yeah, we can catch fire, we can catch lightning in a bottle, but I just don't see it happening this year.
Well, and to me, that's the thing as well. And I had some fans on our Facebook page who said the same thing that you just said, basically, Kelly, which is, of course, we all want to be optimistic. We all start the year thinking we're going to win the Super Bowl, and then reality hits. Now, for some Raiders fans, because it's such a passionate group, best fans in football, I believe,
yep.
they go from one side, and I think this was Jay's point. And I got to get him on the air. I don't know why he won't come on there, but we'll get him.
It's too early for him.
We'll get him. Yeah, probably.
He's smart. He's asleep.
I know. Freaking medicine stuff. Anyway, so his point was, again, though, is that you can't get too high, you can't get too low, which actually Kelly and Chaz, we've talked about on this show before, which is that's how you have to look at this next year, is not get so high when things are going great and they look like they are a Super Bowl team, and then not so low when maybe they drop a game they shouldn't have, or they drop a close game to a heated rival, right, guys? I mean, I think that's the point, is go into the season excited, and we'll also get fans who lecture us, don't tell me how to be a fan, or whatever, and that's fine, too. You can do whatever you want. But my point is, I think you're going to see progress, but as Jay said in his piece, one step forward, two steps back at times, right? I mean, it just is what it is. So it'll be interesting, but with 53 days left to go, guys, it's starting to get real, and I think that we are about to see things happen. Now, big news also this week, and I want to really get Kelly's point of view on this because of the talent evaluation part of this, and we've done it to ad nauseum because of the draft and whatnot, Kelly. But this week, the Raiders finally signed their final draft pick, and that, of course, was running back Josh Jacobs, who I think has an amazing amount of upside if he is used in a way that allows him to showcase his abilities in that offense. And to me, I think he could be Rookie of the Year, no doubt, right? That doesn't mean he will be. But, Kelly, now that they've signed him, what is it going to take, and what do we need to look for? Maybe in preseason, he won't get a lot of snaps. Obviously, they're going to reserve it. But what are we going to look for going into the season to see how John Gruden's using him, to see if he'll have a breakout year?
I think just the number of touches and the number of carries he gets is going to be the biggest thing. Running back is kind of the easiest position to make the transition in the NFL, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, because it's what you do in college is going to translate over into the pros. Jacobs got really good vision, which that's not going to change. He doesn't have that elite top end speed, but he knows how to set up blocks. He knows how to, so that's going to translate no matter what.
Yep.
His route running is going to need a little bit of work. He's got good hands, so he's going to be a 3-down back. Gruden's going to love him because he's a willing pass blocker. His biggest issue in that is he just tries to lay you out and can sometimes misdiagnose a play. So if he just kind of dials down the enthusiasm a little bit and just kind of gets – basically it's like you just have to get your block. You don't have to blow up the guy every time.
Right.
And you mentioned Rookie of the Year. For that, the most important thing is opportunity.
Yeah.
And he should have every opportunity. Him and David Montgomery in Chicago should be the two running backs that from day one are going to be the head guys on their team.
Yeah, and I heard an interview on NFL Network radio this week with Montgomery, and it was interesting. Smart kid. I really like that kid, not only on the field but from a mentality standpoint. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jacobs. I'm doing a piece on the website this week on Josh Jacobs, and I talked to Michael Lombardi about it this week and asked him, okay, what do you see? What's going to be the key? Because he knows Gruden so well, he knows that offense so well. What's going to be the key for Jacobs to have that breakout year? And did he think that he had the ability to be that dominating running back? So he had much of the same response you did, Kelly, and you can read the story later in the week on silverandblacktoday.com to hear what Michael had to say. But, yeah, it's going to be fun, guys. I mean, I think going into camp, there's some questions. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but there's going to be some really great storylines. We're going to see it all unfold because of Hard Knocks, right, guys? And this show, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to critique Hard Knocks and talk about what happens in those episodes once it gets started. So if you don't have HBO yet, you're probably going to want to go get it, right? So, and there's still a lot of, Chaz, there's still a lot of people, with about a few seconds we have left here, there's still a lot of people who don't like them being on Hard Knocks. I think it's going to be interesting to watch how it unfolds.
I actually haven't really watched that much Hard Knocks because it wasn't the Raiders, so I'm looking forward to seeing it this year.
The teams hate Hard Knocks. The last thing they want is a TV crew disrupting the...
Right.
Yeah, it's they. I mean, everybody fights against it. You know you're a bad organization if you want Hard Knocks around,
right?
Because you're just inviting the distraction that you do not want into your.
You don't need.
Wow. Okay, so we know where you guys stand on Hard Knocks. We're going to step aside for our first break. When we come back, the NFL CBA collective bargaining agreement, 18 games. Will the Raiders have to play 18 games in coming seasons? We will talk about that next on Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Rangers take on the Red Sox this afternoon at 3 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. I am your host, Scott Branson, joined by Kelly Kreiner and one Chaz Osborne. We thank you for being here. We also want to thank our sponsor, the Laborers Local 872, the men and women building your new Raider Stadium. You know, the Raider Stadium that is not damaged by the earthquake, that is not delayed, that is on budget. That stadium. Yes, everything's going well, so no worries there. But anyway, speaking of stadiums, speaking of football games, because that's what we do in the NFL, right, is this week, as we're getting closer and closer, folks, to the NFL Players Association and the NFL sitting down for the collective bargaining agreement. They've already had discussions, they're already having discussions as they build up to it for 2020. The new collective bargaining agreement has to happen for then. A lot of people are worried about a work stoppage. I don't think you have to worry about that at all. We'll talk about that. But the biggest item of the week, and you know it's a slow news week when there's really two big items that dominated NFL coverage all week, and that, of course, was Melvin Gordon with the Chargers, ready to hold out and wanting to be traded, perhaps, if he doesn't get more money. And then, of course, the proposal that the NFL move to an 18-game regular season. That's right. No more preseason, at least one preseason game, and then right into 18. And, guys, this proposal has come out this week, and it includes some stipulations. We don't have all the details, right? So this is coming out secondhand, so we have to put a little caveat with that. That there would be 18 regular season games, but with the exception of quarterbacks and I believe it was running backs, you would have a 16-game limit on players. So if you're a player in the NFL, you're not a quarterback or a running back, you could only play 16 of the 18 games. So two things. One, let's just start with the 18-game schedule overall, guys. And I will tell you, I don't think, and this includes people I've talked to who work in the league, it's not going to happen this time. Does it mean it doesn't happen down the line? I don't know. I still doubt it. It's not going to happen now. It's a trial balloon. It was floated for whatever reason for negotiating purposes with the NFLPA, but it's not going to happen, guys. I do not see an 18-game season, at least within the next 5 years. What do you guys think?
I mean, not this CBA, but the next one there will be an 18-game season. The NFL's all about just expanding and making more money.
Yep.
And 2 more games that you can sell streaming rights to. 2 more games you can sell, Because you're already getting the ticket revenue. Because if you're a season ticket holder, you have to pay for the whole 10 games, the preseason and your regular season. But no one's trying to fight to have that on TV. You're not making as much like in stadium revenue because nobody shows up to preseason games. I mean it's going to happen.
But they're talking about the players playing 16 games. What about those other 2 games we talked about earlier? The fans are going to pay to go see Tom Brady, and he's sitting out.
That's the problem the NBA deals with all the time now.
Well, I feel like the fans would be the ones ultimately getting.
Yeah, but nobody cares if the fans get screwed.
No,
seriously, it's what I'm saying. With the NBA, you see it all the time.
I know.
Stars are taking games off. Everybody takes games off. It's going to be the same thing in the NFL, and there's really nothing you can do about it because you can't force somebody to play.
Are they talking about expanding the rosters as well?
Well, that's part of the discussion, right? I mean, if you guys look at it, and one thing that I've seen in some of the discussion has been exactly that, which is if you're going to do it, if it's going to happen, then there has to be some discussion of going from 52-man roster to perhaps 75. Now, again, I've always said all along that the 18 games isn't going to happen, despite the fact that the NFL Players Association, in my view, is the weakest union in professional sports. And that's not a slight on them at all. I'm not saying that. It's just the way the facts and how the leagues work.
Yep.
But to me, they are going to look at it and say, how do you protect jobs? That's what a union does. There's nothing wrong with that. So for me, it's how do you protect jobs? Well, if you're going to tell me that now my guys have to play more, which is going to cut down their longevity by all the statistics we've seen by almost a year less. Right now, it's the average career in the NFL is only 3.5 years anyway.
Right.
Now you're going to go down to 2.8,
Yep.
right? So that means my players are going to have a shorter career. Then I need to have more opportunity. So again, I think this is all about negotiations, and I disagree with Kelly. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think there are other ways the NFL can expand and find ways to get to the dollar, which is exactly what you said, Kelly, which is what it's about. But when it comes to, you have a lot of storms brewing. You have player safety with injuries. Now, that's where the 16 game versus 18 comes in. But how doable is that? Because even, like you said, yes, an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, they don't always play 16 games like a quarterback does. But, man, if I get to the final game of the season and my stud left tackle suddenly doesn't have an eligibility left and he's got to sit out, and the blind side of my quarterback, now I'm going with my – to me, Kelly, it brings up too many questions.
Too many variables.
You're old enough to remember the 12-game NFL schedule, aren't you?
I do, yeah, absolutely.
No, yeah, they once played 12 games.
Right.
Now they're playing 16.
Right.
They've done this before. I mean, they will expand because there's more money in it. The NFL as a whole doesn't care about player safety.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that to do the NFL's terrible. They're more worried about the business side of that because they know if someone's out of the NFL, there are 1,000 people willing to take their place.
And like you said, with the NBA, you get players sitting out all the time. And they're talking about shortening the NBA season.
Shortening, exactly.
Right? So.
Yeah, well, and so one of our viewers by the way, we stream our video on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, so you can come in the studio. One of our viewers, Ron Stratton, a guy who always listens to us and helped us with a little bit of audio issue today, says, how are you going to rest your offensive lineman and leave a $150 million quarterback out there and the risk of it? Now, I think that goes away from the simplification that you had there, Kelly, of going from 12 games to 16 games, because you're talking about players having to sit games. So to me, if you're going to do it, you got to say you got to play all 18.
No, yeah, it's
or
an
you
18,
don't.
It's an 18-game schedule with no limit on there. Yeah, the limit of thing is just stupid.
Yeah,
that's something they're throwing. Oh, we're thinking about player safety. We're going to force you to sit, guys. That's just dumb.
Yeah, it's just a smoke screen for the.
And it's not even a good one.
No,
because everybody knows that'll never happen if you go to 18 games for the simple reason we're talking about.
Yep.
Right, and to the same point, if I'm an NFL player, just like I say with all of the issues, the very serious issues with CTE, head injury, trauma, all that stuff, that's a very serious issue. But the NFL has shifted a little bit, and you're starting to see movement where they recognize that they're not going to ever come out and just be like, yeah, playing football can cause brain damage. But I will tell you this, people who go into football now, who go into professional football, unlike in the past, they know the risk now. They know the risk that if they play football and they get multiple concussions, these things can happen. So if you expand to 18 games, even though the NFL Players Association is there to try to look out for the rights of the players, to me, if you're going to play in the NFL, you know you're going to play 18 games, right? So you sort of sign off on that for the opportunity to make that kind of money, to be a professional athlete at the top of your game. So I can go backwards and forwards on it. My point is, and I don't disagree, Kelly. I don't think it'll never happen. I just don't think we're ready yet.
Well, being ready and then something happening are two totally different things. Because I mean, if the NFL can get this in this CBA, they're going to fight for it, but it's not something they're going to be. This CBA, they're not going to be willing to give up much for it. But I mean, if they can sneak that in there on a relatively cheap kind of basis for what they're looking at, it'll get in there because they realize that preseason games are just not money. It's not the money maker a regular season game is, and they're like, because I mean, week 4 of the preseason, like I'm a degenerate football fan. I won't even watch that crap.
Right.
You know, it's like that's saying something. That's how bad the product is.
Well, and I think that's the point too. Is while I think limiting players the number of games is definitely a big FU to the fans. And to me, that's what I look out for, number one, is the fans.
Absolutely.
Players make money, they get their deal, whatever. But in my view, it's about the fans. So if you're going to, and that's where I think the NBA has the problem.
You're a man of the people, Scott.
Yeah. I try to be. In a purely capitalistic way. But I will tell you that because of that, though, you will see things happen, and you will see, to me, a fan-friendly option is 18 games in some ways because I don't have to pay for crap. I don't have to pay for the preseason games, which as a season ticket holder, you have to. It's just terrible. It's terrible football. It's a terrible experience. So we'll see, guys. But I do think if you do it, it's got to be everybody's eligible for all the games. Now, if you hold people out for your own purposes, that's up to you. But to me, that's the only way you can do it.
They can knock out those 4, everybody's complaining about the preseason, like you said, just take off 2 of the games and make those the regular season games, right?
And that's what they'll do. They won't have 4 weeks of preseason and 18.
No, I agree with that. Well, there's our first discussion. Good opinions, too, online that we're following in our social channels. Thank you for your comments. We're going to step aside. When we come back, Joe Davidson, columnist, senior writer with the Sacramento Bee, will be with us. He's going to talk us about Raiders' retired numbers. Of course, there aren't any, but if they were, who would they be? He's got an opinion on it. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio.
This is Cliff Branch, former of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
Welcome back to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas, Nevada, the future home of the Raiders. And you heard Cliff Branch bring us back in. We all know Cliff Branch should be in the Hall of Fame. I actually heard a discussion this weekend about this and between him and some other folks, and it's amazing he's not in there. But one of the other things, too, that the Raiders have always been very steadfast on, and it was part of the reason was because of Al Davis, the late owner, wanting to not put one player above others and to treat all of them fairly, was the Raiders do not retire numbers. Joining us on the phone now is Joe Davidson, senior writer, columnist at the Sacramento Bee. And Joe recently did a story about this, sort of saying, hey, you know what, if they were to retire numbers, what would they be? So we go out on the newsmaker line and bring in Joe Davidson. How you doing this morning, Joe?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Hey, Joe.
We're doing really good. I appreciate you being here with us today and talking about your story.
Good to be with you.
Great. So Joe, when we look at this and we look at the Raiders, one of the things that it seems like Raider fans even relish the fact that they don't retire numbers, the fact that you have 2 great players in George Blanda and wearing number 16 and Jim Plunkett wearing number 16. Fans seem to have embraced that and liked that. But you bring up a good point in the beginning of your story. You say, hey, look, the NFL is embarking on their 100th season. The timing might be ideal to kind of start to bring back a lot of these players, which the Raiders tend to do anyway. But it might be worth considering this. If the Raiders were to do this, tell us your logic here on why maybe they'd want to reconsider.
I think there's 3 layers to it. Raiders' final season in Oakland all those great years in the Bay Area with a few years down in Los Angeles. A 60th season of the Raiders about to start, as you just mentioned, the 100th season of the NFL about to start. So there's 3 layers, team leaving, all these anniversary dates. Why not send off that stadium and that era off in style and bring back some old Oakland Raider greats while they're still around, while they can still move, while they're still alive. They are getting older. And send them off a rousing tribute by retiring a number. And certainly Al Davis is, his argument is very sound. And, geez, if he retired 5 numbers, what about these 5 guys? And what about those other 5 guys? Right. So I came up with just a small list of guys who are already in the Hall of Fame. It would be hard to argue against. But, and it's I don't think it's going to happen. It would have been in the works by now. And it was great to catch up to Amy Trask. She was the CEO of the Raiders for quite a few years and a right-hand confidant for Al Davis, and she shed good light. That they had this discussion many times because we all know that Al Davis embraced the history of the Raiders as much as any owner in any sport in history, and he was always loyal to the Raiders. Certainly, loved players who were loyal as well. Is what my point was. So. They have an eternal flame of sorts for Al Davis. Why not retire some of these numbers? Like Jim Otto would be easy because 00 is not worn in the NFL anymore.
Exactly.
So we'll get Jim Otto out there. He's the ultimate Raider. He lives in Northern California. He's had so many surgeries. He's almost died before. But he's a lot of these old Raiders are hurt to the core that the team is relocating to Las Vegas. They understand the business of sport. You have to have a new arena to stay relevant, and that Oakland was pretty much just couldn't afford it. So I think it'd be a great idea, and it's disappointing it's not going to happen, but I can certainly understand the reasoning.
Sure. Again, we're talking to Joe Davidson from the Sacramento Bee about retired numbers for the Raiders, and you mentioned in your story, Joe, there's only a few other NFL teams that are older than 25 years old that don't have retired numbers. Atlanta Falcons is one of them. Dallas, although, like you said, Dallas kind of takes numbers out of circulation. They're not officially retired, but you haven't seen anybody wear 8, 12, of course, Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman, and 22, Emmitt Smith, in a while. And in your conversations with Amy Trask, she said the conversation came up, but it just wasn't something that Al Davis believed in. Now, things have changed, as you mentioned. Not only is the team moving, but it's now run by his son, Mark Davis, who seems to defer to a lot of what his father did, but at the same time is starting to forge a little bit of his own way. When you look at NFL teams retiring numbers, 139 total in the NFL. The Bears lead the way with 14, and the last one was 2016, Bruce Smith, number 78 with the Bills. Has the mindset in the NFL shifted around retiring numbers, or have we seen that pretty consistently?
It seems it's like Amy Trask said in the story. She said, it was under her belief and her understanding that the NFL does not allow retired numbers, but teams do it anyways. And you're right, the Buffalo Bills were the most recent one in 2016. So it is interesting. And here's a thought of, as you guys were just talking about this, when the Raiders move to Las Vegas a year from now, why doesn't Mark Davis do it? He could bring old retired Raider greats up to Las Vegas and honor their number. Because one thing I think got overlooked is if you retired a jersey number or a player number in the Oakland Coliseum now, and you put it on their walls or on their stadium, what are you going to do? Take it down and take it up to Vegas? Why not just do it? Either do it in Oakland or do it in Vegas, but do it at some point. Really embrace your history. I think that the time would be this season because of the anniversary dates, but don't see it happening. Wouldn't that be great if it does? But I applaud Las Vegas for what's happened here. You got the NHL, NBA Summer League has really taken off.
Yes.
And the Golden Knights have really taken off, as you guys. And then here come the Raiders. That is a booming city with the backdrop of big time sports.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, of course, because a city loses its team I grew up in San Diego, so I have lots of friends who now are not big fans of the Spanos family or the Chargers because of the move. So I get it. It's very difficult. One side benefits, the other kind of loses. And it's interesting. I mean, the Raiders and the tradition. One of the reasons that we are a Raiders show on the air in Las Vegas, we started last year, so two full years before the team was going to be here, was a little bit of that so new fans could recognize and understand the team that they were getting because the Raiders' history is so deep. And you mentioned in your story, Joe, 12 players in the Hall of Fame, and you went through with some suggestions on numbers. I want to get to that before we run out of time with you, and that is, of course, you mentioned Jim Otto, 00. You had number 12, Ken Stabler, 16, George Blanda, 24, Willie Brown. I can't argue with any of those. Bolitnikoff at number 25, and, of course, the two amazing offensive linemen, number 63, Gene Upshaw, and number 78, Art Shell. The one thing you did say, too, is, and you didn't have any, quote-unquote, L.A. Raiders on here, and I thought to me, Marcus Allen, despite the bad ending with Al Davis in Oakland, and that might still be there when it comes to honoring Marcus, but I thought that, and then I thought, with what Plunkett did, and then Cliff Branch at 21. That was the only list of your list that I differed on. But talk to us a little bit about why. Was it just because the fact that they're leaving Oakland this year that you didn't really consider too much with the L.A. guys?
Yeah, and I figured, let's go with and I thought about it, and I said, why couldn't you retire Cliff Branch? We can do anything they want, or have a double retire number for Willie Brown and Charles Woodson, or double retire George Blanda with Jim Plunkett, who's probably worthy of the Hall of Fame as well. Right. And then could have probably had Ray Guy at number 8. That's the great punter. And how about Ted Hendricks, number 83? Yeah. Mike Haynes, number 36. There's so many more.
There's so many.
Howie. And and I thought, well, let's not go overboard and have all 12, 13, whatever. Let's put Eric Dickerson in there. He played 1 year for the Raiders. He's in the Hall of Fame, and throw his 29 up there, and or 28, whatever he was. And so I just went with, let's go with 7, which is synonymous with football, and just go with that. And they're all, Jim Otto, Stabler, Bland, all these guys on that list. Their careers were in, predominantly in Oakland, or all in Oakland. So that's what my thinking was. I got a lot of emails, and people said the same thing you did. What about these other guys?
Sure.
Some said Dave Dalby, number 50, and Phil Piano at number 41. A lot of people love their Raiders. You can't retire 50 numbers all of a sudden.
Therein lies the problem.
So what is interesting about some of these numbers is receivers will never wear number 20s in the 20s anymore.
Right.
Fred Bolitnikoff, 21, Cliff Branch, 21. Those just aren't going to happen. Or a punter at number 8. So that's the Raiders were unconventional with jersey numbers. So why not retire some?
That's right. No, Joe, I think
or a Ring of Honor, or a Hall of Fame, or Club Hall of Fame.
All the above.
And actually, Joe, you're a little bit of a prognosticator with this one, because from what my sources tell me, they're going to have not only a Hall of Fame at the new stadium, which of course they haven't really had either, but they're also going to have a Ring of Honor type. They're trying to do it a little differently from the very little details that I do have. So that is coming, and I think they are waiting for Las Vegas, which I know is a little bittersweet for the folks in Oakland, but at least those guys are going to get their due. Just a great story, Joe. I appreciate you taking a look at it. It's always fun, especially during this dead period in the NFL where there's not a ton to write about, to go through and use history. We've been doing a lot here on the show. So, Joe, I appreciate you being with us, and we'll reach out to you again real soon, I'm sure.
You bet. Thank you. Anytime, and good to catch up.
All right. You take care now. All right, Joe Davidson from the Sacramento Bee on possible retired numbers for the Raiders. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll close out the hour talking about some Raiders traditions and other traditions and get your view on those. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Radio 1140 in Las Vegas, and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to heat up again today, 109 or so, but we don't have humidity, right, fellas? But anyway, we are going to talk a little bit now in this final segment about Raiders traditions. Now, we're going to get into that. Just a reminder, too, the top of the hour, we're going to have football royalty here, and that is, of course, Ickey Woods, UNLV alumni. I have to say that, of course, because I am as well. And, of course, Cincinnati Bengals, great as well, will be with us, talk about a very important event he's holding here in Las Vegas, as well as information you need to know about asthma, organ donation, a bunch of different stuff. Very, very important stories, so don't miss that as well. Ron Brown will also join him. Of course, Ron Brown, former Rams wide receiver, and then he played defensive back for the Raiders. So we'll have them in at the top of the hour after the sports update, so don't miss that. All right, guys, so now we talked about retired numbers for the Raiders since they don't have them last time before the break with Joe Davidson from the Sacramento Bee. And for fans in Las Vegas, they're getting the NFL for the first time. A lot of us came from other cities, so we're familiar with the NFL. Everybody follows the NFL, right? But when it comes to Raiders tradition, some people in Las Vegas might not know. Chaz and Kelly, both of you guys well familiar with Raiders traditions over the years. If in your mind, and I'll start with you, Chaz, in your mind, what Raiders tradition, whether it's at the game, whether it's with the team, what one sticks out the most for you when you think about it?
I mean, tailgating, that's probably the biggest tradition in football, right?
Yeah.
For me, coming over that bridge on Hagenberger Road and getting into that parking lot at the Oakland Alameda Stadium, and I'd go party with the South Shield. These guys, they'd set up this thing. It was like, $20 for all the food and drinks. And they had this band, and they were just, you'd love them. They were just hard rocking, heavy metal rocking band called Raiderhead.
Raiderhead, like Motorhead and like Radiohead.
But they would change the words. So they would play like Benny and the Jets, but they would change the words like when the Raiders beat the Jets. And instead
they
of.
do cover songs and they'd have fun
but
with
instead of Iron Man, I am Raider fan. And these guys just rock before the game, and it just got you pumped up for the game. And then these last couple of years, they haven't been there. So I'm not sure if there's any Raiderhead fans out there or the band.
We'll
call in, let us know where you've been.
For me, we'll see if anybody on the video feed lets us know.
Yeah, that was just football for me, just getting pumped up before the game, tailgating, and just having a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that, and you hear that so much from folks, obviously tailgating, because most of them are upset that the parking lot here on the stadium site is not going to exist. Basically, it's going to be small. It's going to be different. But there will be somewhere to do it, right? You have to.
I guess they've actually created a space for tailgating, but it's going to be like just small area where you can go in and buy food and so not.
Yeah, it's called Chaz's Front Yard. Kelly, what about you, man? When you think of Raiders football and kind of traditions, not just tailgating and drinking and eating, which is where Chaz's mind is. What else with the Raiders do you think of when you think of traditions?
I mean, the black hole is the first thing I think of. I mean, you think of the fans in, you think of like guys like the Violator, the Gorilla. I mean, it's just
Gorilla.
That one section that every game is always there.
Yep.
Always. I mean, it's there. They set the tone for the. They set the tone for the fans. They set the tone for the arena. I mean, it's, they're there. That it's going to be a great time. And it's, you see the guys in the back of the end zone, where they're going to be.
Right. When you talk about tradition, too, like the Lambeau Leap and those kind of football traditions, the Raiders kind of did that. They would do the leap into the black hole. So many, Thanksgiving Day football, that's just a huge football tradition. And then, I don't know if we were going to go out on all sports traditions.
Sure, you can go whatever you want.
Milk at the Indy 500.
You get your choice. Choice of chocolate, whole skim, 1%. Right? I mean, you get the whole thing.
I think it's a regular dairy farm out there.
My favorite.
It's an auto race.
I like that with the hat tricks when
hockey.
When you're at the hockey game and everybody throws their hats out there.
Well, for me too. I mean, I just to make a note on the Raider tradition. For me, not growing up a Raiders fan. Right, so I didn't grow up a Raiders fan. I grew up actually disliking the Raiders because I lived in San Diego. Chaz, you were there. But for us,
he doesn't remember. So
for me, it was about the tradition of the Raiders was all about the on-field, the badassery, the players. We just had, of course, in the last few weeks, guys on to talk about Lyle Alzado, to talk about John Matusak, and of course, we've had Phil Villapiano on the show many, many times. Those guys and that mystique, right? That image that came with Ken Stabler, that's to me Raider tradition, of course. And there was a winning tradition up until 16 years ago when it ended, sort of. But other than that, to me, it's much more. So I think when you look at traditions as a fan, you look at it as tailgating, you look at it as a black hole. But black hole I would also include because it's very visible, right? People see that. But to me, that tradition on the field. So when they come to Las Vegas, some of that, most of it will come with them. But there's undoubtedly going to be new things, right, Kelly?
Oh, yeah. And like that whole outlaw mentality is going to be, that's what everybody thinks of with the Raiders. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. But Vegas is just a different animal than any other city. So I mean, this stadium, this fan base, it will have its own. Like, it will have to find what its own voice is.
It'll be fun to watch and see what new traditions start because of the city.
The Vegas crowd will have its own voice, right. And chances are it will be slurring.
And and even though Las Vegas is in many eyes of people now normalizing because we've become such a big city and we've grown. I mean, when I moved here, my wife was born here. And it was like 70,000 people. You're talking, early 70s, right? And then it grew. Now we're at 2.5 million. It's changed into a quote unquote more normal city. But go back in history. You look at UNLV's teams in football. We're going to have Ickey on in a few minutes. But also basketball. We also had that sort of outlaw mentality view. And people still look at it. There's still people you talk to who think that there's nothing but bad things here. It's gambling, addiction, prostitution, and that there aren't, regular things.
What are the bad things?
I don't know if there's a chill.
I was gonna say.
I don't know about the chill side of town.
This is a family show. No, but seriously, I mean, I think it fits. I think the Raiders, that's why coming to Las Vegas was such a natural. So interesting stuff, and I appreciate everybody online talking to us as well about that. We're going to step aside for the top of the hour sports update, maybe an update from Wimbledon if you're into tennis. I can't even hit a tennis ball, but nonetheless, we'll get an update. And then we'll come back. Ickey Woods will join us, as will Ron Brown, here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio. Don't go anywhere. Lots of great things coming up here on today's show.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas. We appreciate you being with us, and we're excited in the studio. We got a team here in the studio. Let me tell you something. Two guys that I watched playing and were fantastic NFL pros, and now they're off doing amazing things in their communities as well. So we want to welcome first Ickey Woods.
Hey.
Ickey, man, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, bro.
Appreciate you being here. Of course, Ickey hails one of the pride of Fresno, California, along with Tom Flores. I mean, we can go down the line. There's a lot of guys.
You guys come
from Fresno. Of course, Ron's from L.A., right, Ron? So there's so many guys out of L.A. We can't.
Actually, Inglewood, though.
Inglewood, that's right. And Inglewood, which, of course, now is going to be the home of the Rams and the Chargers.
And the Clippers.
And the Clippers, yes, that new arena, man. Inglewood, I have a good friend here in town. His name is Reggie Burton, and Reggie is from Inglewood and grew up down there. And so, Ron, when he comes back from Inglewood, he's like, man, it's just unbelievable what's going on there with the redevelopment,
incredible.
Which is awesome for that community. Just fantastic.
$30 billion just in that little 300 acres.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really nuts. So that's great. But we certainly appreciate you guys being here. And we have good reason to talk to you today. And we're going to get to that after the next break. But I wanted to, while I have you guys, I want to talk some football with you first. And start to get some of your opinion, too, about the NFL. Now, you guys have heard, I'm sure, in the last few days, and I'll start with you, Ickey, about the idea of extending the season to 18 games, cutting back on the preseason. What do you think of that proposal? Do you think it's ever going to happen?
I don't know, man. It may be good, but, the preseason now, it's not like it was when we played, man. Guys are suffering injuries more than they were when we played because we had training camp and we had time to get our bodies used to the punishment that's going to be given out, during the course of a 16-game season, and, and to shorten that up and, jump them right into playing games, man, I think that's going to increase the injuries a little more. But, the NFL is all about making money. And if it's going to make them money, then that's what it's about.
That's right. Ron, what about you, man? I mean, you think if you were a player today, it all comes down to what are they going to give us if we got to go to 18 games, right? I mean, seriously, because to me, that's your career. The numbers show that you'd go from, I think the average career is 3.5 years down to about 2.8. So you're talking under 3 years. How do you feel about that? And put yourself into the mindset of a player these days. What would be your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know if the guys are really going to feel it too much. You know what I mean? The preseason is like Ickey was saying, it's time for you to get your body in shape. They get most of the preseason they use for a lot of guys that's trying to make the team. So like a lot of guys that are kind of like on the bubble get a chance to kind of show themselves in preseason. So they're just not going to get that much of a look. But it's like Ickey said, it's about the dollars with the NFL. Now the clock starts, and all these salaries are so big right now. They probably need them 2 extra games.
I know, it's like, man, if you could, that's what I always think. Hearing old players, I just watched an interview with Joe Namath. Because he had a book come out about Super Bowl III, and he was talking to Howard Stern, because Howard Stern, whether you like him or not, does a great interview.
Yes.
So I'm watching that, and I'm hearing him talk about, back in the day, in 1970, getting a $400,000 contract was, and his team got mad because he was making so much more money than everybody.
Yeah.
But nowadays, with the money being thrown out at those guys, it's just remarkable. Now, one of the things, too, that we talk a lot about, and it's all about solutions, of course, is health, right? So head injuries and all that stuff in the NFL. The NFL is starting to, I think, get around to really talking about it and doing something about it. But at the end of the day, right, guys, you Ickey, when you go on the football field, the nature of the sport.
Right.
You kind of know what you're getting into. At what point do you start to think with guys, look, you know what football is. Mm-hmm. It's a great game. I think the greatest game. But at the same time, you do take risks when you go out there, right?
You do, and that's why guys are getting paid the way they're getting paid now, because of the risk that's involved with going out there and, because one play could end your career,
Right.
And I'm not mad at these guys for trying to go after these guaranteed contracts now, more getting some of that money guaranteed just in case you do have a season-ending injury. You went out there and you fought and bled for these teams, and then when you get to the older guys who are, suffering now because they didn't have those guaranteed contracts, and a lot of those guys are having health problems and mental problems, and they're not being helped, and that's unfortunate.
No, it is, and there's great, of course, organizations and charities like Gridiron Greats, which Mike Ditka started. Yes. We've been to their event. And they're doing good stuff to try to help those guys out who might not be in the financial position to help themselves, which is real difficult. And that the other thing that we're hearing about the collective bargaining agreement coming up, just to get your guys' thoughts on that, Ron, is also, look, so many states, the number of states increasingly that are approving of medical marijuana or recreational marijuana is increasing, and they're finding that, especially with severe head trauma, that it often helps. Do you think that the Players Association and the NFL owners are going to come to maybe an agreement where they'll allow for use of that?
I think so, though. I think that's going to be the future. I'm in that space myself, though. We do a lot of research with a few hospitals in Loma Linda and Costa Catalina in Los Angeles. We have some doctors out of Israel. The plant's amazing. I lost both my parents to cancer at different times, and both times the doctors told them to use that plant, as an instrument for pain. Yeah. And, my dad was like, no, I don't want my kids doing it. And he died from prostate cancer, rest in peace. But now that I'm seeing how amazing this plant really is, my personal experience, I've witnessed autistic kids, the kids with epilepsy seizure. This plant does amazing things. And it does protect your neuroreceptors pre and post concussion. So those are the studies that we're doing.
Yeah,
some good findings in that area.
It's fascinating. And, that the stigma of what marijuana was as an illegal drug, and I understand some people still don't feel comfortable with it, and that's up to them, right? Everybody's got their own thoughts.
Sure.
But that certainly has changed over time as we see the medical benefits.
Because of the benefits of the CBG and the CBN, those are different from the CBD side opposed to the THC side, which is more recreation, because we have a campaign, we do information 411. Cannabis 411, which allows us to go around to high schools, and we let kids know that the brain doesn't fully develop to age 24.
Yeah.
So too much of anything is not good for you. So, let's be careful about our choices and your jobs and a DUI, because those are the kind of things that I'm just concerned about. Being a father of 3 boys, don't drink, don't smoke and drive, and be careful about what's in front of you as far as your career and your choices that you make. I mean, like, I've seen this marijuana thing cost some of these guys going into the NFL millions of dollars.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Because they do have a right to set that rule.
Yeah, big time. And I mean, I know you also do a lot of work in the community with at-risk youth and everything, so you're always around. I'm sure that's a key message for you. Now, back to football. I want to ask, because of the positions you guys played, and Ickey, with running backs in the NFL today, a lot of talk about how things have changed. Yeah. When you look at running backs and with the spread offenses and how things are going, what do you think of the evolution of the position? And maybe when you're watching football today, I don't know how much you watch,
right.
but when you watch today, who is it that you like watching?
Well, I like watching some of these guys, man. Nowadays, these scat backs, man. They it's all about the passing game now. The day of the big brutal runner is gone, but you still have a boy down there with the Rams, Gurley, who's doing his thing as a good running back, man. You have the Le'Veon Bells, so there's still some good hard running backs out there. We got one down there in Cincinnati and Joe Mixon, so still have some good backs, but it's going to more of a scat game where they're spreading everybody out and more of a passing game now and than it was when I was coming up. It was smash and grab when I was coming up.
Yeah, and Ron, for you, I mean, can you imagine being a wide receiver in today's NFL?
Oh, yeah, these guys, catching 1 million balls a season.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a lot of work out there.
Yeah.
I just want to bring back the Ickey Shuffle, though. I just want to see somebody do that one time. He need to brand that one, bring that one back.
Yeah,
I'm glad they allow guys to do some kind of dancing, because
sure.
it is an entertainment. The whole thing is entertainment, though.
Yes.
So that was always fun to watch.
Yes,
well, and you were, Ron, one of the fastest guys in the NFL, right? I mean, you go back now and you look at the list. You won a gold medal doing the 4x100 in the 1984 Olympics, which is crazy because I called my sister a couple days ago because I went to the 84 Olympics. I lived in San Diego, went to the 84 Olympics. And I said, did we go to the 4x100, the final? And she's like, I'm not sure. So she went and checked her ticket stubs. I was there.
Oh.
Which was crazy.
That was a great day for us, man.
Yeah,
oh, my gosh.
We had a lot of fun that day.
It was so much fun, the Olympics in L.A., but as a wide receiver today, I mean, you look at, since we're a Raider show, look at Antonio Brown, right? Mm-hmm. Who some people don't like because of his attitude or whatever you want to do. I think the guy's incredible if you look at how hard he works. But guys like that today and what they're doing, what do you like about the way that position has evolved, and what maybe don't you like?
I like it a lot, though. I like it. I think that playing a defensive back, they don't stand a chance right now. They can't even
touch you anymore.
They can't even. I'm surprised they can make any plays.
Yeah.
Because I always pride myself. If I know where I'm going, you don't know where I'm going, you got to guess.
Right.
Yeah, you're not supposed to make that play.
Right.
Yeah, we talked to a former Sun Devil with you, Michael Haynes.
That's my guy.
Who talked about that too. He told me when I was talking to him, he's like, man, they can't. He's like, I was never a big speed guy, but I could get position in today's league. I could. I mean, he was just like salivating thinking about being able to play now.
Yeah, Mike always says that though, but he is a speed guy. He always says he ain't a speed guy. He's a speed. He used to come back there because he's a Sun Devil too.
Right. Yes,
so he used
absolutely.
to come back to Arizona State though when I was playing defensive back, because I was defensive back at Arizona State. They moved me to receiver my last year, so he used to come back and train me and stuff, and he beat me out the blocks like 5 out of the 6 times we ran. I'm like, Mike, you got speed. Stop playing.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's funny too, because you talked about and Ickey, you running back your whole career. Of course, you had that great, amazing year at UNLV, which led to you being selected in the second round by the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And you're still really close to the team. I love to see that mutual love between you guys is still there, and you still do a lot of things with them.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, it's nice. And Ron, you were a Raider for a year, and you know what Al Davis always said, right?
Yeah, no, that's speed, man. Speed, yeah. That's his whole thing. He don't care what you do. He just wants speed on the field.
I want the speed on the field. But once a Raider, always a Raider, right?
Always
so
nation.
even though it was 1 year, and then you went back to the Rams, and then you closed out your career.
I did.
But you went back to defensive back for that 1 year. How did that feel for you at the time?
That's what happened with me, though, because on draft day, because at the time I had beat Carl Lewis. And at the time, he was the fastest man in the world, so I had a chance to hold that title for a minute. Al called me that morning and asked me, are you gonna try to make the Olympic team, or are you gonna come play football? Well, shoot, I'm gonna say football.
Yeah.
Because he's on the phone.
Right,
so he said,
right.
we got the next pick. We're gonna pick you, but we want you to be a defensive back. So, but then the Browns called me, so that I had a chance to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like chasing people, man. That defensive back thing is tough.
I don't blame you on that one.
Tough position.
All right, well, we're going to step
And then
aside.
I got to hit somebody like an Ickey Woods, too.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
never do that. I would never do that.
We are talking with Speedball, Ron Brown, and, of course, Ickey Woods here of UNLV royalty, NFL royalty as well. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we will talk to why these guys are really here, and that's to talk about some important work that they're doing with some charity information and events coming up. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
40.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. In the studio today is Ron Brown, former Raider, former Ram, and of course Ickey Woods of the Cincinnati Bengals and the UNLV Rebels as well. So he's spent significant time in Las Vegas, and he's back. And Ickey, we're going to start talking about why you're here too, and because it's an important story to share with folks, not only because of the work you're doing now, but also so that we can hopefully do our best to prevent that it ever happened to anybody. And that again is you're here to talk about your son, Javonte Woods, the Javonte Woods Foundation.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and again, even though it's been a while, our condolences. You lost your 16-year-old son to asthma.
Yes.
And as a parent of 5 kids,
Yes,
I can't even imagine. And I know the pain doesn't go away, but what a great thing you're doing. Tell us about the Javonte Woods Foundation and what you guys, from a mission standpoint, do.
Yeah, well, I started to found after I lost my son. Didn't really realize that asthma could kill. So when I lost him, I started doing some research and come to find out asthma is the fastest growing disease in America. And not only that, since 1980, asthma has risen 80% in the kids from the age of being born to the age 19. And a real alarming statistic that kind of blew me out the water is that 11 people a day die from asthma.
Wow. 11.
And
Wow.
yeah, and I was blown away by that, and I started doing some research and found out there's really nobody out there doing anything about asthma. So we started the foundation 8 years ago, and we've been able to do some great things. You know, we've donated over $100,000 to Cincinnati's Children's Hospital to do some research and hopefully, if not find a cure, find a better way to treat it. And I started doing some things in my hometown of Fresno as well. And so I wanted to branch out. My goal is to have my son's foundation, the face of asthma. And so I went to school here, and I wanted to come back here and do some things. And we've kind of teamed up with Children's Hospital here. And so we're trying to raise money for them to, do some research and maybe help some kids who can't afford the asthma medicine, that type of thing. So we're trying to do some great things here, and we'll have a asthma awareness day on the 7th of September, and then we'll have our golf outing on the 8th of September at Valley High. So,
the Saturday, the Family Awareness Day at Sunset Park. It's free to everybody. Come out, asthma screenings, which is so very important, right?
Very important.
People
just to find out.
And make sure you care for your family and for your kids and for yourself.
Yeah.
Adults get it too, right?
Yeah,
and they don't even know.
We'll have doctors and things out there, to talk about, and another thing we want to do is try to educate these coaches, especially Little League coaches that really don't know a lot about asthma. We want to try to educate them on the signs of asthma because, back in the day, it was like if a kid was out there loafing, he may have had asthma, but they were saying that he was a loafer and,
Sure.
and run him extra.
Didn't want to run.
And the kid couldn't breathe, And so we want to try to educate them and make sure that they know the signs. And if the kid has asthma, make sure that they bring the inhaler to practice with them. So in case they need it, and it's a rough disease, but hopefully we can, if not find a cure, find a better way to treat it.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, that's going to be on the 7th. That's the Saturday. And, of course, that night, you're going to be honored at the UNLV versus Arkansas State football game at halftime, which is
Yeah.
great.
That'd be great, man. They honoring the 80s team or the 80s decade.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be out there also signing autographs. So
Great.
guys, come on out. We're asking for a $20 donation to the foundation for
Yeah.
the autographs. And we're hopefully raise a lot of money that way to help us in this and to fight this deadly disease called asthma.
Yeah, and some of those
Yeah.
guys, for our Raiders fans who might not be as familiar with UNLV football, though that decade, right? You had Randall Cunningham,
yeah.
you had Sam King, you
Yeah.
had locally Steve Stallworth, Steve.
Yep, and then we
Strip.
had Keenan McCardell
Keenan,
was
yep.
in the 80s. Yeah, so we had a nice crew of guys, man. That came out of them 80s, man.
Oh,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And then the golf tournament on Sunday, beginning at 8 a.m. at Valley High Golf Club. Listen to this, folks. Not only will Ickey be there, but Larry Johnson of UNLV, of
Yes, sir.
course,
Yes,
basketball fame, Reggie Theus, Rush Street Reggie, as I still call him. Winky Wright from boxer, Byron Chamberlain, Andre Reed, of course, Hall of Fame NFL wide receiver, Greg Bell, former Raider as well, and a part of Notre Dame, Merrill Hodge, Dokie Williams, and more are coming. If you want information, too, and I'll give this out again later, DE2LV@gmail.com to sponsor or play there. So Ickey, that tournament's going to be a blast, man. You're going to have all those guys out there.
We're going to have a lot of fun, and what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to team every team with a celebrity. So when they come out, they'll go out there, have some fun, and they'll get to hear some stories. Love hearing them stories, especially from the older guys, man, back in the war days. So we'll have a lot of fun, and we'll have raising a lot of money. We'll have a bunch of memorabilia stuff to auction off. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And it's going to be a great day for us.
Yeah, and so again, we'll put that up on the video and online through Twitter and all that stuff, so you guys can know how to get there as well. And we are looking forward to there. I've been talking to Cheryl, of course, who's helping you with the tournament.
Yes.
We hope to broadcast live from the tournament.
I sure hope you guys can
get everybody out there as
it.
well. And also, one of the reasons we have Ron here too is Celebrity Golf Grudge Match, Ron. So you guys also on that Saturday the 7th, early in the morning, up at Aliante Golf Club, Raiders versus Broncos, man. Are you going to, first of all, the golf clubs, you're going to hit balls with the golf clubs, not each other, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We hadn't decided yet. Yeah, it may start off with balls. No telling how it's going to end.
But tell us a little bit about the NFL Players Congress and what you guys are doing with the tournament.
Yeah, so that whole thing is we were found out about the golf tournament through iLifestyle. Mrs. Fernandez told us about it. She was married to one of my former teammates, Mike Harden, who's a great friend of mine. And so when then they said the Ickey's tournament is the same weekend, said we want to participate in both. You know what I mean? So guys are coming out and they're actually going to play 36 rounds of golf.
Wow.
God bless them.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a lot of fun too, though. But our focus is on to help Ickey with his program. I think what he's talking about is incredible, and I just couldn't imagine losing any one of my kids to anything. So we want to bring more awareness to it, and whatever we could do to help with that solution and those journeys with some of these kids with asthma. Because I coach Pop Warner football too, and we have a lot of inhalers on the sideline because of that.
Yeah,
more now than I've ever seen before.
Well, and again, with Ickey and your son, Javante, 16 years old, an athlete, a great student, 3.8 average. So, I mean, this was a good kid you were raising, so credit for you.
Yeah, great kid.
And to lose him to such a terrible disease, I know you don't want any other parents to feel that way. For folks who are out there, I mean, obviously coming to that family event to get screened for asthma
very important
on that side is so vital and so important. And when it's free and you don't have to worry about anything,
right?
You don't have to pay for it, which is amazing that you guys are doing that. But for those out there who might be athletics, some kids listening to us who might be athletes, who might feel that they have asthma, that limits them, what do you tell them? Because I know you're around kids a lot who might be suffering from asthma. What can they do to make sure that they're going to be able to still participate but be healthy?
I just tell them to make sure they take their medicine, even when they're feeling good, even when they think they don't need it, you still take it, because you have to get into the preventative measure of it now. You got to prevent an asthma attack from happening once you got it under control. And once to say, even though you may be doing everything that you're supposed to, you never know what triggers an asthma attack, and we don't know what triggered my son attack because he was taking his inhaler and he was doing everything he was supposed to do, and it was one of them real hot and humid days, and we just don't know what triggered it, you know. And I unfortunately I wasn't home at the time that it happened, and I still kick myself today because I normally would take him with me, but I was going to get my grandson, and on my way back from getting him, my youngest son called and said he couldn't breathe, and by the time I got there, they had him in back of the ambulance, rushing him to the hospital.
Yeah,
so, it was rough.
And just keep an eye on it. I know, but it's also crazy. You guys our age talking about grandparents.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What's going on with that?
Oh, man.
My oldest is 22, so
and I tell him, I tell him that's God gift for us, but not killing our own. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Because we can spoil them and send them home. And, you know?
I'm part of that grandparent crew. That's what you do, boy.
Well,
They're the best.
I'm not there yet, and I keep telling my daughter to push it off. I said, when you're 40, go. Guys, though, I mean, Ickey, thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me. We definitely appreciate it.
Oh,
appreciate all the help you're trying to give us to help us get this thing, you know, from the bottom of my heart, man. I thank you guys.
We appreciate everything you're doing, and we're going to continue to tell people about it the 7th and 8th of September, of course, the tournament, the Ickey Woods Celebrity Golf Tournament as well. So we'll do that. We'll put information up so you don't miss it. And also, Ron, your tournament as well, the Grudge Match, and your involvement with Ickey, helping him out. So we appreciate you guys being here very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and we'll bring some jackets and drop some Raider jackets off.
All right, man. That sounds great.
I got some Cincinnati bingos. Ickey will sign a few.
You got it.
That'll be awesome.
Will.
Our fans will be excited. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll close out the show with a couple segments. You've been listening to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to the Silver and Black Today.
All right, indeed you are. Now we're back to normal people in the room, and I say normal in that, boy, Ron Brown and Ickey Woods being in the studio, that was fun, guys. We had a good time.
That was great.
Great guys, and great charity event for Ickey, the Ickey Woods Celebrity Golf Tournament. Again, September 7th and 8th, they're going to have a Asthma Awareness Day at Sunset Park on the Saturday, including a barbecue, everything. And then Sunday, the golf tournament, which we're hoping to be at live, beginning at 8 a.m. Ickey Woods, Larry Johnson, Reggie Theus, Winky Wright, Byron Chamberlain, Andre Reed, Greg Bell, Merrill Hodge, and Doki Williams.
Doki,
yes, who we've had on the show. Also, the Celebrity Grudge Match on the Saturday morning as well. Raiders versus Broncos. Alumni from the Raiders and the Broncos going to play with you. Play golf there as well to help out the NFL Players Congress, retired NFL player that helps retired NFL players. Ron Brown's doing that as well. So just great fun having those guys in, man.
Is Hakeem Talib and Michael Crabtree going to play in that golf tournament?
Oh boy. Then no grabbing chains, right?
Man.
but a good time there, and appreciate having Ickey in and
those guys are great.
They are great. But it's that time of the week which everybody out there who's waiting to be outraged, they just wait for it because it is, of course, time for Kelly's Corner.
Oh.
What do you got, Kelly? Come on, man. Lay it on me.
So
You're not going to do the Ickey Shuffle first for people on TV.
You know what?
You can't do it?
I don't remember the whole thing. It would for me. It looked more like the Humpty Dance than it was the Ickey Shuffle because I can't quite remember how. Like I know it because I
It was easy. 3 steps this way, 3 steps that way,
and then but wasn't there a spin?
Oh yeah, then he did the woo.
Yeah, see, I can't remember exactly what it is.
That's right.
We should have YouTubed that, and I would have.
Next time on Silver and Black Today, White Guys Dance.
Yeah, we had a great commercial. Was it Geico? I can't remember when he got his number called at the deli, and
he slams the cold cuts.
Getting cold cuts.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk to them because we wanted to focus on the important stuff. But a great commercial. We had a lot of people commenting on YouTube about that commercial. But Kelly, what is irritating you this week?
Kelly.
It's irritated me. Twitter polls
besides
and just Twitter outrage over dumb stuff. I just don't get it. There was a poll. Could you score a point in a match off Serena Williams?
Oh God!
And 8% of men said yes, they could.
Unbelievable.
7% of those 8 are diluted. I'm sure there's 1% of guys out there who were former good high school, college, something like that.
Yeah.
That in a match you're going to get a point. You know. I've got a shot to get a point if she double
falls.
You know, but like, cause I was talking earlier about it. You know, I played for fun a lot in high school and college. Like I played a lot of tennis, but I wasn't, that good at it. And I was thinking, when I was in high school, I might have been able to score. And then I looked at her age. She's only like 3 years younger than me because I thought she was like a 7 or 8 year old Serena Williams.
Yeah.
When I'm like 16 or 17, yeah, I'm getting a point. A 13-year-old when I'm 16, there's no way.
Yeah.
So I see this and I'm like, but these things are stupid because nobody's got to put anything behind them. The other argument I saw that I loved was someone on Twitter said that someone said Charles Woodson was a better defensive back than Ed Reed and we should shut down the internet. And this guy was acting like that was the dumbest thing he's ever heard. And then this whole argument, like I'm reading this whole thread because I found it fascinating. You have some people on one side, so many people on the other, but there's no discussion there. It's just outrage. Right. Charles Woodson's probably the second best cornerback the last 20 years. I've got him just behind Revis and just in front of Champ Bailey personally. Now, granted, I'm a little biased on that. Yeah. But if you look at his numbers are outstanding. Not only that, he switched to safety and did a hell of a job as a safety. That's right. To where Ed Reed's probably the best safety of the last 20 years. Argue with me on that. Find me somebody better. And I think he's the best. But you can't really compare the two positions because they're asked to do such different things, But it's just every time you go on Twitter, there's just outrage over this, outrage over that. And I'm like, if I wasn't so lazy, because it's Twitter, Twitter is perfect for information gathering on like just sports, weather, anything. But there's just so much BS to just muddle through to get there. I'm almost like, why do I do this anymore?
But that's what I always call out is this outrage culture. And actually, we have a mutual friend, I'm not going to say who it is, Kelly, that said something, and I just called him out on it. Not that I was agreeing or disagreeing with him, but it was a little bit of this whole, oh gosh, it's terrible. It's like, well, come on. Are you just jumping on the bandwagon of people being angry about a subject? We can talk, the women's soccer team, right? So Megan Rapinoe, everybody, oh, she's terrible or she's awesome, whatever it is. And I don't think people even read. And I tweeted out a story the other day about how the comedian, I forget his name, that was charged with, or he was accused of sexually harassing somebody, Indian guy.
Aziz Ansari.
Yes. So he wrote a story, and I got in a nice little friendly argument with my wife on this yesterday. But his point was he started doing, as he kind of came out of his blacklisting a little bit, as the charges or the accusation was found to be somewhat false, at least mostly false. He came out, he's practicing his new stand-up. Right. And at the stand-up, he said, hey, how many of you guys hear about this Pizza Hut thing? And people all raised their hand. Well, what do you think about this? So he asked him what they thought about that story in the New York Times, and he made it up. There was no story, but instantly two people took an opposing view and knew all about it. And so that whole outrage thing, it's like, it's okay to disagree with people. It doesn't mean they're horrible people. It doesn't mean because they have a different point of view that they're sexist, racist, homophobic. It doesn't matter. Let's just stop being outraged and instead have real conversations.
Yeah. I saw a great little thing on Twitter of all places I'm just ranting about, but it was like some, I don't know if it was Australia or some foreign country, it was a little comedy bit and it was basically summing up social media. There's like 7 or 8 friends sitting there, and the guy's going by on a bike, and they're like, hey, could you take our picture? He's like, yeah, sure. So he's like, all right, say cheese. And this lady's like, I'm a vegan. I don't believe in cheese. So the guy's like, oh, okay, say tofu. And then goes like, tofu's actually bad for you. Every CrossFitter will tell you. And it's just everything. So finally the guy just goes, okay, here's a selfie, does that, and just throws the phone at him. Wow. But I mean, it's everything he's like,
sums it all up
he goes,
perfectly.
We'll count down from 3, 2, 1. He goes, well, the dyslexic people, you can't say anything without somebody just being all just.
Yeah. Yep.
People want to be outraged, and they will find any freaking way to accomplish that.
Well, but that's also too. I mean, I even think let's keep it on the subject of Raiders football. There's people who have various opinions, and you might look at someone's opinion and say, well, they're not real informed, and that may be true. Is that a reason to go nuts and question whether or not their mother was an animal? I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, you see crazy stuff, and it's like, why did we get to a point in the world where we are so intent on being right, on showing our outrage over someone else being wrong, that we just, all logic goes out, and that includes football. Look, somebody might think Derek Carr is not a good quarterback. If they have good logic around it and they present, I'm okay, even though I disagree and I think they're wrong. You're wrong. I think you're wrong. But, okay, you have your point of view. I'm not going to go crazy on it. But, Kelly, it just seems like people can't accept other people's points of view anymore.
Well, it's like I said, it's like if you don't agree with me, you're 100% wrong.
Right.
There's no nuance in the world anymore.
No, you're right.
And I understand, like, you will have, like on Twitter and text and everything like that, to where you don't have, like, nuance. It's like, sorry, it's because you're just reading that. You don't get tone, you don't get things like that, so things can get misconstrued. But for the most part, you can tell that this is a personal attack against this person because you think, so-and-so is not good at a position or so-and-so's better. And it's all, it's like you said, it's just, hey, why have a conversation when if I yell the loudest, that makes me right?
You know what, though? Chaz is a lover, not a fighter. So he gets along with everybody. Right,
That's
Chaz?
right. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to step aside and pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to close out the show, talk a little bit of Raiders football training camp and whatever else you guys want to talk about. 702-889-5978. Maybe we'll sneak some calls in with you ahead of our new show coming up called The Rotation. We'll tell you about that as well. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Station.
The Dodgers take on the Red Sox this afternoon at 3 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back as we get ready to head into the stretch here on Silver and Black Today on this 14th day of July 2019. Yeah, I'm doing the radio. I'm getting ready. I have another show coming up after this, Kelly.
Yeah, way to prepare for your other show. Glad to know we're important.
Yeah, really.
You're welcome. But we, again, want to thank...
Can't be any worse than this one.
Wow. Who needs enemies? Want to thank, again, Ickey Woods, the great Ickey Woods, UNLV alumni, UNLV Hall of Famer, and NFL player, of course, with the Cincinnati Bengals, and Ron Brown, former Raider, Ram, Speedball, as he was called. That guy was fast. 4x100 relay Olympic gold medalist in 1984.
And you were there.
He was, and I was there. Craziness. Real deal, man. And both good guys. We also want to thank UMC because we talked about the asthma screenings. Children's Hospital of Nevada at UMC is going to be providing those free asthma screenings. We want to thank them because they are going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And we'll keep you updated on that tournament. All right, guys. Well, we're heading into the stretch here. We're getting ready for camp, right? So this time next week will only be a few days away from camp. But there's some storylines. I mean, for you guys, we've talked about it in the past a little bit, Chaz. But when we look at the storylines for camp, for you, what one big storyline, like what one thing are you sitting there saying, man, I want to see what happens with this? What is that?
I mean, there's all the different competitions for all the different spots.
So you're saying you can't narrow it to one?
Health. I just want to make sure everybody gets in and out of there healthy.
Yeah,
that would be my major concern. But it's always fun, like what we're talking about, just how it's going to play out, who's going to win out. There's always a couple of surprises and fun things that come out of camp. And we're really going to get a good view of it this year because of a Hard Knocks. So,
Hard Knocks. What about you, Kelly?
I'm most interested in who's the other defensive end on the opposite side of Cleveland, because he's going to be a starter from day one. And
well, you better be if you're drafted there, right?
Well, not necessarily, but you would hope that he would kind of hop in there, but it's not like going to be a death sentence if you bring him in a little slower. But just with our defensive line, you look at it, he's going to be a starter from day one.
Yep.
But the other side, because the other side's where you're going to get your speed rusher, because Cleveland's never going to be a speed rusher. He's more that run stuffer that he's going to get pressure, but that's not going to be his main focus. That's not going to be the main he's not going to be the main pass rushing force on that defensive line.
He's just going to be a solid pillar over there. I guess offensive line's got some question marks as well. It's going to be something to watch.
Nah, they got Richie Incognito out offensive line.
Oh, boy, here we go. Don't get him started on Richie Incognito.
So the news with the 2-game suspension on Incognito?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, a suspension was expected. Nobody kind of knew what it was.
Right.
But without it being, I mean, 2 games kind of is what I would say 2 games is what was expected because there wasn't an arrest. There wasn't, it's just,
he says,
stupid.
she said kind of.
Well,
I know it's a little more than that.
It's just extremely stupid behavior from a crazy, crazy person.
Well, and I think Richie Incognito as a player is going to make a big difference for the Raiders. I'm putting aside personal feelings about off-the-field activities because you insist on getting the decapitated head of your father at his funeral doesn't mean you're crazy, or does it?
Or punching a hole in your grandmother's wall and ripping her security system off the
Ladies and
wall.
gentlemen, Kelly Kreiner is the grandma protector. Yeah. But yes, I agree. No, I agree with you. I mean, there's no question that if he keeps it, I think this is some of what's going to be fascinating, even though I was not a massive supporter of Hard Knocks and the Raiders being on Hard Knocks. I think that these storylines are going to be interesting. Now, of course, it's edited to show you what they want. Mm-hmm. But if something's melting down or if something's not working, you can bet your bottom dollar that to a certain degree, I don't think always, to a certain degree, the NFL and Hard Knocks, NFL Films, will show it. So we'll see how that all – Antonio Brown, too. I mean, the guy, his work ethic and what he's doing, I mean, those videos and stuff from his doctor, his physiologist, working with him and all that, amazing. But – what happens when he gets challenged because you've lost 2 games in a row and you drop the ball? I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying let's happen hypothetically.
Adversity.
Then what happens?
And
Adversity.
They're going to frame every narrative they can to make it look like a dumpster fire because that's what everybody wants to see and everybody wants to watch. You see the way they edited some of the meetings and stuff between coaches and players in the Browns.
Yeah.
And it's obvious they were trying to make everybody there look as stupid as possible, which granted they were pretty good at doing that themselves.
Right.
But it was a hit piece, man.
Well, but that's the other thing. That's the other thing too. That'll fire up Raider Nation if that happens. But the other thing too is just like all reality television, with the exception of this show, because even though nobody sees Chaz grabbing my knee under the desk.
Oh,
no, just kidding. You know what I'm saying, though? It's not real. So you're going to see what is being fed to you. So don't, again, like Jay said in his piece, don't overreact or underreact to certain things. I think you're going to see some truth in there, and it'll be fascinating to watch because you're a Raiders fan. That doesn't mean it's all real, that it's all happening.
And Jacobs is going to shoot up every fantasy football draft board
once
they see it because everybody.
He's going to be the star.
Everybody, yeah. They are going to build the show around Gruden
and Derek
him.
Derek Carr is going to be the aw shucks, milk and Oreos guy, which is totally fine. That's authentic for him, actually. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. So we close out another show, guys. Thanks for being with us.
Great show.
That's what. And we will talk more about training camp next week. Also next week, just so you know, we have guests booked already. Former Raiders player and UNLV player Leo Gray will be with us to talk Raiders training camp and what the team is doing in the community. Jesse Reed from Sports Not on juicy storylines for Hard Knocks. So he wrote a whole story about it. We're going to talk to him. Also, Ryan Wilson from CBSSports.com on if John Gruden can truly fix the Raiders. He has a very strong point of view. I'm not saying you'll like it, but we're going to have him on, and it'll probably ruffle some feathers. And then our good friend, one of the guys I love best on Twitter, all of Twitter, Benjamin Albright, NFL analyst and a good friend of the show, will give us his first look at the AFC West rival camp of the Denver Broncos, guys. So we'll have that. Sounds good?
Donkeys.
But that'll be fun. We're going to start touring
the
AFC West camps to see how they go, how things are looking for each
hopefully Melvin Gordon signs in San Diego, or that's going to be a real slow show. They're done.
Yeah, if he signs in San Diego, he'll be by himself. But if he signs in Los Angeles, it's allowed. It's allowed.
Is the stadium built? Are they playing in Los Angeles?
No, they're playing in Carson.
Yeah, there you go. They're still the San Diego Chargers until they move to L.A.
I agree. All right. Well, guys, thank you, as always, for being here and contributing to the show. Also want to thank our engineer, David Stepanian. Coming up next here on CBS Sports Radio, myself and Tony Farina, we debut a new show that's called The Rotation. That's right. We're going to have a show about general sports. Today, we're going to be talking about Major League Baseball. What a week with the All-Star Game and what happened in Anaheim. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk NBA Summer League and whatever else comes up. So make sure you join us for the rotation at 10 a.m. here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Until next week, Raider Nation. Make sure you check out the website, silverandblacktoday.com. Check out our YouTube channel. We'll have video highlights from today's show as well as other things. And follow us on Twitter, SilverBlackToday. And we always appreciate you guys being here. Until next time, may the autumn wind always be at your back. Thanks. Talk to you next time.